Welcome, Kristen.
So thank you to Enrique and the Graduate Doers Club. I really do enjoy the initiative that you're starting, and that there's a space for Brandeis graduate students to be able to share their stories and how they're trying to change the world or impact other people. So tonight I will talk to you about community engagement to community security and 3 development approaches through 3 different organizations that I've worked with, and examine the needs that were there and then how I and others addressed those needs through different development approaches. So I'm going to start with the research corporation from the University of Hawai'i, where I worked on a mountain called Mount Ikea. And it's actually, when you measure it from the base of the ocean to the summit, it's the tallest mountain in the world. Of course, it's not from land, you know that. But it's considered to be one of the best places on the planet to study astronomy. There are all different kinds of observatories on top of the mountain. However, it's also a very, very sacred mountain. And Hawaii has had numerous confrontations between the local population, cultural practitioners who regard the mountain as very sacred, and the scientific community who want to use this space to be able to study outer space. So, coming to this mountain, I started as a volunteer for their stargazing program, in which I would go up a few times a week and work with educating the public about deep space objects, astronomy, and trying to relate that in terms of mythology as well. So we would also discuss the constellations, both Greek and Hawaiian. So, but how do we bridge this dialogue between the cultural practitioners and the scientific community? Because it certainly was creating a lot of tension, and more tension to come, because they're actually planning to build the world's largest telescope in a few years right on this space as well. So there's a dialogue right now going on about how to allow this without compromising everyone's ability to share the mountain and keep it sacred as well. So there were 3 programs that we ran. It was the Stargazing program, the Universe Tonight program, and the cultural program, which is Malalo I Kalani Po. So each of these programs involved trying to create a space for dialogue. And there are a lot of tensions with the land use, so conservation and protection of endangered species. A lot of endangered species exist on the mountain, and actually only on the mountain. Cultural ceremonies and sacred spaces, astronomically the best place in the world to stare into space, and a place for recreation. And of course, like I mentioned before, there are a lot of post-colonial tensions and apprehensions in the state itself, but also especially in a lot of these very sacred spaces. So, the Cultural Night program basically brought up practitioners twice a month to discuss how they felt about the mountain and ceremonies that were often conducted, and invited people to take part in these ceremonies and the public to join in on these ceremonies and really be a part of understanding why the mountain is so sacred. It was also a space just to share how the culture was influenced by the different climates of the mountain, because it's actually, the state of Hawaii actually has 11 of the 13 ecosystems just in that one state. And from sea level up to the summit of the mountain, it goes through a number of changes of ecosystems as well. And so each of these stages actually holds a lot of weight, not only for the scientific community, but also for the local community as well. This picture here is Poliahu. She's the goddess of the mountain. I'm going to use this. And she is considered one of the most sacred deities in Hawaiian culture. She protects the mountain, and every year she sends her white cloak over the mountain and lays a blanket of snow from the summit down to about 12,000 feet. There are 13 observatories and 11 nations represented on the top of the mountain. And visitors come every day to drive up. It actually is quite difficult to get up there. But it's a beautiful, one of the most beautiful places, in my opinion, on the planet. So, the programs that we ran were communication and community engagement. Specifically, this is just one of the examples right on top of the summit. It's an ukulele, which really is an altar to the gods. And we would bring people up here with cultural practitioners to partake in the ceremonies and really try to engage that dialogue and build a space for people to talk about it. We held free astronomical education programs once a month. It was actually required that every telescope had to send somebody from their telescope to give a presentation. And we only did this once a month, and there were 13 observatories, so really, sometimes there was one observatory a year who did not have to send somebody. And it was on a rotating basis, and the presentations ranged from inner solar system education to other galaxies, other deep space objects, and anything that you can think of. And then after those programs, daily we had a stargazing education program, and this is where we wanted to engage the public to, as well as the cultural practitioners and the scientific community, to come together in this one space as soon as it was dark enough every night to learn about the night sky, and also to learn about Hawaiian mythology and the constellations that we could see from that space. This is a star trail. It's one of the first astrophotography pictures that I took. They trained us to do astrophotography up there too, so that's definitely a skill I enjoyed. And as you can see, we had a few telescopes that we would roll out every night, anchor into the ground, and others would bring up their telescopes as well. It was a huge community event every single night, and especially on nights where there was something special to see. This is Comet Holmes. We saw it, I think, it must have been 2007 something, I can't remember, but it was one of the special events where every night people would come up just to see this comet. And if there was ever, we had events for the equinox, and we had events for meteor showers and special events for that as well. And here's an example of all the telescopes that we would bring out at night. Some of these are actually owned by personal people, but most of them are ours. And the photo over there, my very good friend Justin is giving the star tour, and if you can see his green laser, I brought mine tonight as well. So, and my friends are laughing because they know I like to play with it. But so like I said, every night we would come out. The night sky has got to be one of the darkest skies I've ever seen anywhere. Probably half an hour after sunset, all the clouds drop, and you can see everything. And so what you're looking at here is actually the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy right there. And Justin's doing his thing. So after Hawaii, I kind of got hooked on this community engagement development program, and I decided to join the Peace Corps. And we do have a few other returned Peace Corps volunteers in here, but what I will say about the program is that a lot of the people become like your family, and the program becomes like your family. You become very invested in it, its ideals and initiatives as well. So in 2008, I joined the U.S. Peace Corps, which is an international development program for those who don't know. And when you join the Peace Corps, you can get sent anywhere in the world. sometimes you can give them a preference, like a preference of a region, but it's pretty rare that you can say, I want to go to a specific country, and that they will send you to that country. So in my interview, I indicated that I wanted to go to Asia. They had initiatives in different countries in Asia, and I didn't really have in particular in my mind what country I wanted to go to, but when I got my letter, they said I was going to China. And I said, China, great, okay. So, I don't know anything about China. So I started trying to learn Chinese right away, and learning as much as I possibly could before I left. The Peace Corps actually trains you when you get on site for about 3 months in whatever skill you will be bringing. Hopefully you have some background in that skill already. And also prepares you culturally and with language skills as well. So here I was in the province of Chongqing. Right here. I'll use my green sheet. And I loved China. I fell in love with it right away. It was such a beautiful country, beautiful language, beautiful people, and rich in history, and really challenged me for the way I was thinking about development. And so for our initiatives, we had 3 goals for the Peace Corps: helping the people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women. So Peace Corps only goes to those countries that invite them to go, and for the skill that they request. Helping promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served, and helping promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans when you return to America. So what I did was taught English with gender and development initiatives and HIV/AIDS awareness initiatives in particular. So we tried to develop specific gender awareness curriculum and implement that at our sites. We focus on participatory and sustainable development, and at my site in particular, I wanted to start a women's club. And it was the first initiative, the first project that I really wanted to take off the ground for my site, and was having a really, really hard time implementing it and getting approval to have the space to have the club. So at first, we would meet in my little apartment, and it took months of me begging to get a space to have this club. And people were trying to be very, very polite and turning me down, but I was very insistent and kept asking for a space. So finally, I think they gave up and said, fine, we'll give you a space. And that's when everything started taking off. So eventually, other community members started coming to the club, and we really shared a rich experience of discussing feminist theory, but also context-specific problems that girls and women were dealing with, and how to kind of bridge the gap in the society to properly address or engage in these issues to make a change. So we also worked with HIV/AIDS awareness and curriculum development and implemented that into our curriculum as well. Specifically, after becoming so engaged with the Gender and Development Initiative, I became the volunteer leader for the Gender and Development Initiative.